You're listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner.
Hey guys, it's Charge and Hayner present Zoom the TBT. Tonight we got a treat. We got Matt Moschella from War Ready and Daniel Chun from Kimchi Express. Gentlemen, how are you doing tonight?
Fantastic, Hayner. Charge, good
I'm
to see
doing
you,
well.
man.
I see you too.
So anyway, you two are two of the most well-branded teams in the tournament community, which we really wanted to have you on here. So really, how did you guys' brands develop? I want to start with Daniel there. How did the Kimchi Express band come into being?
Good question. I feel like I've at this point answered this question pretty often, but for those who are tuning in for the first time, Kimchi Express, we started as a group of high school homies. We started out, what would it be like to play against the pros? It's pretty simple back then. TBT qualifying into the tournament was just to rack up as many votes as you can. We felt like we had a good base here back home in LA, Orange County. And so we just hit the ground running. We just amassed votes, got to play in the tournament, got whooped by 40 both years. So that was fun. Free jerseys, TV time, all you wanted to do there. But we saw an avenue and a platform, as do a lot of teams, where you have professional players, giving them a chance to not only compete for the $1 million, but also compete back at home in front of friends and family. So all of that draw and that platform being there was a big part of kind of how Kimchi Express became to be. And then with that, just being a platform where we can, just expand and have people more aware of Korean culture, I think is a big part of us. Keeping that a Kimchi Express name was a huge part of what we're doing in terms of branding and just storytelling. So, yeah.
All right, perfect. Yeah, and Daniel and Matt, once again, thanks for jumping on. Really appreciate you guys. So turning to Tampa 20, well, I'm going to call them Tampa 2020 for now because we're going to talk about the evolution and going a little bit deeper here. But Matt's first kind of foray into the tournament was a team called Tampa 2020. And so why don't you just tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the tournament, Matt, and some of those initial stages of Tampa 2020.
So like Daniel said, we were just a team that was around here in Tampa, and a bunch of our guys came and recommended the idea of TBT to me. So we had a good, a lot of friends around here. We got enough votes and we qualified for 2018. We won our first playing game and then kind of got ran out of the gym against Ram Nation.
They tend to do that. They're a fast-paced team. They play like 47 people off their bench. So they tend to run with people.
Yeah. We made it a little close, and then, we got tired. But after that, we saw what we needed. We made a good run against Team CP3. We lost on a buzzer. Well, an Elam ender, I guess, not a buzzer beater. And then after that, I talked with a couple guys. We made some switches, and now we're here where we are now with War Ready, which we'll get into.
Moving on up.
Yeah. But other than that, it's been great with TBT so far. So we're glad to be here.
Yeah. So what's really interesting about both your teams is right now they're probably two of the most well-known teams in the TBT circles, and they both have different histories. And what I find interesting is the evolution of as TBT evolved. Both of you guys and your teams have learned to evolve with TBT. So going back to Daniel, obviously you guys went from that kind of fun-loving, group of homies, as you said, from high school playing some ball. And then as TBT was evolving, you had to make a decision at one point to start to transitioning into a professional basketball team. And, talking to Dan, if you listen to our podcast, he's estimating every single team this year is going to have at least 7 guys on their roster who made legit real money playing basketball last season. So you had to make that decision to go away from this fun-loving team to a professional team. So take me through how that felt in the process.
Yeah. It's definitely a huge turn in just terms of, for those that are listening or watching, wanting to get into the tournament or trying to develop a team, like it's all about connections, obviously. And for us, we didn't really have connections in the basketball world, man, especially in terms of professional basketball players. So it's really, you got to start with your story. You got to start with your why you want to be in this tournament, and really stick to that mission, because, people are going to sniff that out pretty easily. And just being genuine and just trying to create those contacts And it's just building blocks from there. So like from the people that, we first started out with till now, like the roster that we're going to have in 2021, it's a world of a difference, but it's all those building blocks. Like you've got to be able to put in that work, get your story out there, and make valuable connections. So that's basically the recipe right there.
Yeah, I mean, connections are a big part of this, because the reality is, like, we all kind of have some toes in this world, but like getting your full foot in, getting your whole body into the pool takes some work. Now, there's a bit of a difference, because you guys are, again, two of the most well-marketed or well-known programs in TBT. Kimchi Express has been very consistent in sort of their goals and like sort of how they've marketed themselves. Matt, you've gone under a whirlwind of changes in the last year. Positive, obviously, from Tampa 2020 to War Tampa to now War Ready. Can you talk a little bit about how basically the alumni, the change from a regional team to alumni team, what has been the evolution? What has changed your mindset about how you market from that point of view?
So this all started, we were gonna, like last year, we were gonna still be Tampa 2020. We had LaRon Smith, he's been with me since year one, and then year two we had added Deshaun Murray. They both went to Auburn. And then last year they both recommended adding Bryce Brown and Horace Spencer, which they played with us. And when we added Bryce, we grew a fan base in like an hour. And then added Horace, and it got even bigger. Our Twitter went from like 200 followers to like 3,000. So
who even knew Auburn people knew how to use Twitter? No, I'm kidding. Please don't kill me. I'm joking. I'm a Southern guy.
But then we had the discussion last year of giving a thanks to the Auburn fans last year, because we truly believe without them we wouldn't be in the tournament without them, because we had such a big fan base and people wanted to watch us play. So we saw the fan base keep growing and growing and growing, and then this year I just had to make the announcement that we went full alumni, and it just took off even more. Our Twitter account's over 5,000 followers. We have basically a full team of alumni, minus one. We have Isaiah Williams. He's played with us since year one, so right now he's the only non-alumni. And that's really it, man. We're excited. We're ready to go. We're going to Charleston, West Virginia, as we announced on Twitter the other day. So we're excited.
Nice,
it's pretty crazy, actually. Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting hearing that too, because you've both been able to differentiate yourselves. Obviously, Matt has this massive Auburn following. I was kidding, honestly. Auburn's got a great fan base. Bruce Pearl. I mean, it's almost guaranteed you guys will play the Volunteers in the second round, because the Bruce Pearl Cup has to happen. I mean, so it's going to be Volunteers. That looks like a ready-made 4-5 game. But like talking about you guys differentiate with an alumni base, Daniel, you guys, we both consider pretty much a lock, not as a highest seed maybe, but definitely because of your narrative and your willingness to come play. How have you guys been able to differentiate your program so well with your online presence and your identity to make yourself such a strong narrative program in an event that prioritizes fan involvement?
Yeah, no, great question. First off, salute to Matt in terms of how he's leveraging the Auburn fan base. I think that's awesome. And the way he's grown, what is it? War Ready, right?
Yes,
yeah, I think it's super dope. For Kimchi Express, like, we've been carrying our name, carrying our brand from the jump from 2016. And what we've been able to do to differentiate ourselves is really, initially it was voting, right? It was voting, being those underdogs that can get votes, that don't have an alumni base to tap into, that don't have, an influencer that's backing us. It's just grassroots marketing, right? Just bare bones. Now, as the TBT has switched into this at-large bidding system, we've been able to, now, let me backtrack real quick. Voting was king before, right? Now, content is truly king. And so that's really the biggest way that we're going to differentiate ourselves. And that's for everyone in the TBT that's trying to get into the TBT. Content is king. So this is just a shout out to everyone out there. If you don't have like a graphic designer, if you don't have a content team that's like, making these dope player graphics, videos, things like that, you're on the outside looking in terms of TBT, because as content grows, you're going to have more eyes on your team and this and that. And so I actually want to give a quick shout out to, I was just looking at We Are D3 before.
Yeah, friend of the
getting on
pod. Great branding. Great brand.
Yeah. And so I just looked at their IG actually and saw that they posted something where they wanted to, they wanted to bring on a graphic designer. I think that's what every team should do. And what you see is, they just announced, was it Eric Smith? Is that his name? Eric something.
Yeah.
Eric Smith, and it was a dope graphic, and so that draws eyes, and people are scrolling all the time. You got to get something that's going to attract attention and attract eyes, and that's really what's going to differentiate yourself as a team to get into the TBT. So yeah, that's my advice.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And that's why this year we've really gone to some of more of these global topics. We'll get to know a little bit of your teams on this podcast too, but just to really kind of, get a deeper look into the brand of TBT and the brand of your teams. And as we talk a lot about this, it all sounds pretty easy to do. So Matt went from Tampa 2020 to Auburn and 5,000 followers basically overnight, but we know it wasn't that easy, Matt. And so what was the biggest challenges and obstacles you faced as you had to transition? Or the biggest decision you had to make?
Biggest decision, honestly, was the changing the name. The name Tampa 2020 was important to me. But once I saw that fan base and keep going and going and going, and me living in Florida, with the SEC, I see a lot of Gators down here and all that. And then for Auburn, to come and just take us, wherever the fans wanted to go, they took us. They welcomed us. I have no ties to Auburn, but now I feel like everything I do is War Eagle.
That's actually pretty hilarious because it's funny because I've been the alumni president of the New York chapter of the Memphis fan alumni group for the last decade. And I didn't go there, which is most of but I'm from there. So it's kind of funny. The idea of being tied to alumni base that you're not an alum of is a fairly odd thing with the TV crowd. So you're just like me in that respect now, and that you're now an honorary alum.
Yeah, they've actually welcomed me out there. Fans are interested in me coming out there to meet me and all that stuff. So I gotta jump in on that conversation. So I'm definitely excited. Maybe meet Charles Barkley one day. Who knows?
Yeah,
there you go. Be a nice booster for you. So we all need those good boosters on the team. So if Charles Barkley, the 0.001% chance he's listening to this, definitely get on board.
He's too busy on
Eagle.
Inside the NBA yelling about how the 3-point line is for pansies and bitching about basketball not mattering, and it was a real man's game in the 80s. All their nonsense he spouts. By the way, Charles is one of my favorite players. So here's that. I love Charles, but you ever watch him on TV? He's the 3-point line is ruining basketball. And you're like, oh my Lord, what's going on here? No, it's pretty interesting though. So Matt had to make a big adjustment. Kimchi's grown a lot. Can you talk a little bit about how the narrative with the North Korean charity, I want to talk a little bit about this. You're playing also kind of for a cause. You have a hybrid team of this great branding, which is incredible. In fact, I was actually trying to look at the 4 cities to see which one had the best Korean restaurants. I was actually looking at that, trying to figure out where you would go. And the answer, I think, is none of them, to be honest with you. But, none of these have huge Korean groups, I think. I mean, you come back to Brooklyn at some point, we'll hook you up.
Oh, let's go.
But the funny part is so talk a little bit about this partnership you have. I'm really curious how that factors into both, not just your branding, but also what you're playing for.
Yeah, no, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. Liberty in North Korea, it's a nonprofit that focuses on education in terms of bringing awareness for the North Korean people. When you say North Korea, when you hear about North Korea, the first things that come to mind are nuclear weapons and Kim Jong-un, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, that's fair to say just because that's what's going on in media, but ultimately there are people out there that are suffering, that are people that need to be heard. And there are refugees out there that, have this modern underground railroad that no one knows about, And so that's huge for us in terms of bringing awareness to the people there and bringing awareness to the fact that, it is a corrupt nation, but ultimately just empowering the people that have left and have, taken that risk to try and leave. And so that kind of leads me into another part of what our branding gets into as well naturally is, the whole rise of Asian hate that's coming on,
Oh God, yeah.
And that's kind of going on with the overall climate. And I don't want to get too deep into that, but one thing that we really want to do for this year is just providing awareness. Our mission was to spread Korean culture through the sport of basketball, and basketball is a universal language. And for us, taking, people that have never tried kimchi or never tried Korean barbecue and taking them out to go eat and share that culture piece with them. That's huge for us. And so taking steps for awareness, taking steps to education, I think those are big steps that we can take to, help unify this kind of world, this broken world that we live in. And so those are kind of the two pillars I'd say Kimchi Express is really, really running after and trying to expand on in 2021. So man, we're excited. So yeah.
I want to ask the guys too. Like, I mean, Charge and Matt, I assume you've had kimchi before. Please tell me you have. Are you fucking kidding me with this?
That's what I'm talking about, man.
Kimchi is so I actually, it's funny. When I went to New Zealand, just briefly, I went to New Zealand with my girlfriend like 10 years ago. And we used frequent flyer miles, which means you fly whatever airlines you end up with. So I flew through Incheon, Seoul. That was where I had a overnight, which was kind of a crazy place, right? So I flew Air Korea, and and that's not the first time I had Korean food. Let's be clear, it's great Korean food in New York. I've had it plenty of times. But like you're on a flight with Air Korea, that's all you can get. Like you're like, I want a burger. No, you're getting a bibimbap bowl. You're getting and it's fine. It was delicious, but it's actually some of the best airline food I've ever had. But the funny 100%. Part is like people are like, what is this? I'm like, it's fucking cabbage. It's tasty. Eat it and shut up. And it's just a hard thing. You guys have seriously never had kimchi?
No.
Daniel,
I'm as meat and potatoes as you get.
God.
To my son. My son's been to China and Rwanda and all sorts of cool places. I haven't gone on some of those adventures yet. So
Charge, when you and I
adventures one in the family.
When you and I go to cover this, you understand I'll be traveling with a guy who has a pretty good palate and is a vegetarian. So I'll have both on you. I don't do meat anymore. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah. That's how I got this great body, obviously.
Hey, anyway, super good health benefits with kimchi. I don't know if you guys know, but anyone on that health craze, kimchi up, man.
Yeah.
All right, I'll have to consider one day. Let me jump back over to Matt. Us Italians to stick together here and our meatball subs and
kimchi pasta, man. Kimchi pasta.
And, we'll do that sort of thing. So let's get into a little bit more about the teams. Obviously, opportunity for you. So Matt, this is a prove it year for you. Unfortunately, last year was a tough run. Obviously, you were out. Unfortunately,
we were both high on you last year. Really high.
Really high.
Yeah.
So you kind of ran into a little bit of an issue where you couldn't be there for the team, and then the team unfortunately didn't perform well. So big rebound year for you. And the cool thing is the Auburn fans were, even after a tough loss, stuck with you, really supported you and the team even after that tough loss. So heading into West Virginia, which hopefully Hayner and I will both be there, barring any unforeseen circumstances. How well do you think this Auburn team is going to travel? That's going to be a crazy regional with West Virginia. Heard that it's going to be loaded. Tennessee. I mean, there's going to be some amazing teams, and I don't know the Auburn reputation for traveling. When you hear some of these places that travel, like Ohio State, Dayton, they got good reputation. So, what are you expecting from the Auburn fans as you guys head up to West Virginia?
So when we announced it yesterday, we had a few fans already tell us they purchased tickets. So that's interesting. I'm excited to see that. We have a few fans that say they wish it was more close self, but I think, as we win games, hopefully, and, perform better than we did last year, I think you'll see more. And I have a lot of fans already in our messages saying they want to see us in Dayton and they'll be there. So we hope to, have more fans every game. So we'll see how it goes. I told them all that this region is going to sell out fast with all the alumni teams that will be there. So we need to show out and hopefully bring this tournament to Auburn one day. So the more support they help, maybe it can come there.
I mean, it'd be tough because I don't know. No, I'm gonna make that joke right now. But I'll tell you, the thing with this podcast is like I'm more of a college guy and Charge more of a G League guy, but he's definitely in Big Ten country. He lives in Ohio. And people in the Big Ten are like, oh, the Big Ten's everything. It's like, you've never really been to an SEC stadium, have you? Like, I'm from a non-SEC. I'm a Memphis guy. We're sub-SEC, so we have a big chip on our shoulder. But like, even I admit, like, look, we'll whip Tennessee's ass on the field or on the court. But the stadiums, I mean, Memphis gets a crowd. Tennessee has a revival, and they're like the worst drawing team in the SEC. Like, you get Florida, the Swamp. It's like what 90,000 people or some nonsense. Like, I mean, Ohio State's got a huge fan base, but past them in Michigan, like the mid-level SEC teams draw so much better, I think, than mid-level Big Ten teams. So the fan base is Auburn fucking travels. That ticket's gonna be a hard damn ticket to get. but we'll see. I mean, I can't wait to see that team. So Daniel, you on this, as opposed to me talking shit about Chargers Big Ten. The key thing about this is like we're talking about goals for the team. Now, Kimchi has improved every year. You mentioned getting whipped by 40 a couple times, but you guys have a win now. That was in Brooklyn, correct? In the plan, right? Wasn't it?
LA.
It was LA. That's right. So you guys have won a game before, and you guys all have transitioned from being a bunch of guys having a good time and just getting on TV to like having a real roster. Is there anything about this roster you're starting to form that you're kind of excited about so far?
Really excited. I mean, I think it starts from the top. You know, we have the head coach, Steve Beck. Shout out Chino Hills High School. Shout out Ball Brothers. He was the guy that led that 35-0 team with Lonzo, LaMelo, and Leangelo. And so we're going to play fast. We're going to be dogs on the court like we always are. But like I said before, content is king. So we're going to be dogs off the court. And so we live to kind of fight before pre-tournament too, you know. Seeing who kind of has the best content. I used to jab a lot before on Twitter, but I kind of scaled back on that a little bit. But you know, it should be fun. I think the team that we have, like you mentioned, we improve every year, and so really excited about what we can do and what we can see on the court in terms of gelling and getting things going together. So without giving too much, that's really what we got in store for you guys. So,
yeah, the teams aren't going to be released quite yet, obviously, because I think early May is the actual date, which is coming up actually
this Saturday.
Oh, Saturday! Crap, we're already there. In fact, actually, we're going to be releasing this after Saturday. So the reality is this is going to be released on Monday. We're taping on. So by the time people hear this, the actual application process will have started. So there you go. So you're getting the future early, I guess, or past or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So Daniel, hopefully Trey Davis is on your short list again this year. I know you're not ready to reveal your roster, but we all know that he would be a great addition to the team. And one of the Ball brothers is not in the NBA right now, so you got some connections, and you never know, right?
Yeah. In the works. You never know. You never know with the TBT, and you never know with the ZoomTBT. So shout out you guys, man.
Yeah. All right. So, Matt, your roster's a little more transparent at this stage of the game. Why don't you tell us about the guys who are returning and just kind of mention some of those big pickups this year?
So we went. We have we have about 4 guys returning. With Isaiah Williams, who's been with us since year 1. You know, he's the only non-alumni, so trying to get him as much love as all these Auburn guys. With LaRon, who's basically changed the whole team. You know, he's the one that helped me get this all started. Then we have Deshaun coming back, who's an energy guy, and then we're excited to have Bryce Brown back as well. And then some of these new guys, we got a couple guys from the Auburn Final Four team. We are working on a couple more, so hopefully that works out. And then we got some of the older Auburn guys, you know, when they weren't as good as they are now, so they're real excited to play with these guys. A couple of them have played in TBT before. One especially is his name's Simeon Bowers. He's played on the Marquette Golden Eagles every year except last year when they won. So he's excited to be on here. He's been big to help us, and we're just ready to go, man. I like we got a bunch of young guys. We got some vets, so just a good mix. We're working on a big time coaching decision here, and like I said, a couple more guys hopefully from Auburn's Final Four team, and we'll be ready to roll.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because like Auburn under Bruce Pearl and the teams they've had recently plays very fast. Daniel was talking about Kimchi playing fast. We actually had a conversation earlier about like how it's relatively easy even for most teams, even at the college or pro level, to find quality guard play, because you know, find guys that can play who are 6'2", 6'3" is always able to be done, because there's so many good guards in the world. But the advantage of playing both the styles you want to play is you can go a little smaller. Can you talk a little bit about how having a deep pressing type team, like I assume you guys want to play sort of that 94 feet style that Auburn now plays under a guy like Pearl?
Yeah, I mean, that's whatever, you know, hopefully this coach that we have in the works wants to do. I'm sure they'll do some stuff that they did in the Final Four. I know they rather shoot threes than layups, so I'm cool with that. You know, we have some big time shooters on the team. We're real excited. There should be a lot of energy, you know, and hopefully it should be a better, you know, result than last year. Because if not, then there's some serious changes that have to happen. But I think we'll be good. We'll be ready to go. And that's really it, man.
Yeah.
Roll Tide alumni next year, maybe, if things don't work out.
I'm gonna spit my fucking drink out, Dave. Don't fucking do that. I'm drinking.
My bad,
I gotta
Auburn
say,
fans.
I would love to see an Auburn, like Alabama TBT game. I mean, just for the fist fights, that would be
Yeah,
fun.
Alabama's been rumored to get a team a couple years in a row now. Just hasn't.
But they haven't been good except for the last few years. They get coaches
Levi
fired.
You get Levi Randolph, Arthur Edwards. I mean, you already got a good core right there.
That's some good players. No, I want to be clear. I'm doing this. They're good players. I'm just saying they don't have the depth of. I mean,
It'd be nice to see
give them
them
3 years.
through.
This Nate Oates team is going to roll through with a bunch of fucking studs. So I mean, in 3 years, Auburn's going to have not Auburn. Alabama's going to have a crazy TBT team. Crazy.
Yeah. So speak to someone who knows a little something about threes, Daniel Chun. So Matt was talking about threes. The guy's a legend on the court. So I mean, you see GM Daniel sitting here, but the guy's a legend on the court. So just a couple questions for you, Dan. How different is it, kind of getting excited for the TBT to take the court, be on national TV versus GMing? And then as a GM this year, what does success look like for you? I think we always say win $1 million, so within that, I'm sure you have a couple goals and a couple steps along the way that would, no matter what happened, I feel really good about what I did as a GM.
Oh, that's a great question, Charge. What's the difference between being a GM and a player? Man, it's a world of a difference. Especially, as a player, you're so much, you're more antsy. Obviously dealing with the nerves and whatnot. I think being a GM also, you're dealing with the same nerves, but it just kind of comes out in different ways. Like, you guys can probably tell. I don't know if Matt's been in a TBT game before playing in it, but man, it's different. I don't know what it was, but that court felt like 150 feet. And so I was gasping for air, things like that. But it's fun. And you talk about kind of success metrics for TBT. Obviously, the goal is to win $1 million, but there's a lot of other things that we can do that create success. And so, like we mentioned before, we're talking with a couple companies trying to figure out what we can do in terms of a partnership level, and then just creating more brand awareness. I think uniting the Korean American community, but also just even within that, again, like we said before, with our mission, trying to spread Korean culture through basketball, I think is a huge part of what we're trying to do. And so, again, another plug for any TBT team that's trying to make it. I know there's going to be a lot of buzz. The applications are already out. This is going to be aired on Monday. So if you guys have something, put your story down on paper, make a pitch deck, do something, and just get it out there, man. I think we have shown, Kimchi Express has shown that anyone can make a team and be successful at it. You just got to put in the work. And so that's just kind of my encouragement to anyone who's looking to make a TBT team.
Hats off to you. And I mean, some of those other kind of OG TBT teams, I mean, you see them on the court now, and some of the things you're doing, it did not happen overnight. This was a long process. So hats off to you. I mean, it's been fun following your journey throughout this piece. So Hainer, I'll let you take the question.
Yeah. So really, this has been a great episode. We really appreciate it. We were able to talk about your teams and talk about what to look forward to from Kimchi and War. I mean, it's a very exciting time. We're really hyped about both your teams. And we want to bring you on, really talk about the identities. These are two of the stronger identities. And you guys have given some great advice. I'll ask Matt this first. If you could give one bit of advice to someone starting a TB team or someone who has an established team, how would you give them advice on how to get their brand awareness out there? Content-wise, immersion, whatever.
So my answer, I'm going to say you got to find a fan base and just go with it. Like when we saw the love that we're getting from Auburn, it took over, and, you just have to be engaged with them. I get a lot of credit for, being very social with them on social media. And that's really it. And that's where, we are today. So you just being real social with those guys and just run away with it. And that's really it, man. That's all I got to say.
That's
And how about you, Daniel? Any that you mentioned a couple of things about the content? Any other first year advice? Which there's a lot of teams every year we see this where I equate it to like that Tampa 2020 original teams. These were good ball players. I mean, these were professionals. They were good teams. They were competitive. But the reality is, if they didn't transfer to War Ready last year, they would not have made the tournament. We all recognize. And there's going to be 10, 12 of those teams that are going to look like Tampa 20 did 2 years back. And so that's the really the focus. And so you mentioned content. Any other kind of items you would recommend these guys focus on? Because it's going to be fast and furious this year. I think application period is going to be from the 1st to about mid-June. So you got to make a name for yourself and create identity very, very quickly.
100%. And, I talk about content, but before we go any further, obviously you need the players and the coaches, right? If you're creating content with a bunch of squids out there, no one's going to pay attention, right? And so that's kind of the way, the natural progression that we went into. And so, you've got to be able to lock down some key players, people that have played overseas, obviously professionally, things like that. And then once you have that as a base, again, like I said, with the content, the pitch deck, these things that you've got to be able to tap into. And on social media wise, make an Instagram, make a Twitter. I'll say one thing, man, I am shocked that the Shockers did not have an Instagram before. They just made that this year or something, or I don't know what they have, like less than 100 followers, which is kind of crazy. But hey, credit to them. It's cool, but that's just something that you've got to be able to do. IG, Twitter, embrace TikTok. You gotta get into these channels. Who knows, man? So that's TikTok. What we got to do to stay. So what we got to do is to stay creative, man, because we don't have an alumni base, right? We don't have anything that we can tap into. So you got to create that aura and that just buzz yourself.
So what you're saying is Hainer needs to create the ZoomTheTBT TikTok, start dancing, and some of us that are a little more advanced,
nobody wants to see me dance.
Yes, sir.
Nobody wants to see me dance. It is funny though. We are on IG because Charge and I are both not old, but old enough to not give a damn about IG. Really, is the problem. I have an IG and I'm never on there. I love Twitter, but Twitter's. So you guys, Twitter's much less popular than IG, right? Instagram's everything. Twitter's like much more secondary, right?
Yeah.
Well, we gotta get it.
Not for us.
Really? Hang on, whoa.
What'd you say? Snapchat. Is Snapchat still a thing, Daniel? We're going to look at you as our technology expert. So you talked about TikTok. Snapchat still a thing?
Snapchat. That's where you find like girls that aren't your wife.
No, I don't think so. I'm going to take Daniel's word for it.
Yeah, something that Matt said, for Twitter and Instagram, they serve two different clienteles. You know what I mean? So like it's you've got to have both because you're serving two different ways. They operate two separate platforms. So Matt has a lot of success on Twitter, which is obviously, because it's so interactive, but just make an Instagram and Twitter. That's my key advice for anyone that's trying to get into the TBT.
And use them. Don't just make them and ignore them like I do. And then with the flag, by the way, that's fantastic. That's taped up. That's the kind of high budget sort of stuff we run here.
I know.
Flags
you got the
falling
fancy you got the fancy flag up with Scotch tape. You got some printed out logos in the back.
This is a good time to say that. This is a good time to say the podcast could also use sponsorship too. If you give us a sponsor, we'll be able to afford like better tape, I guess. That's pretty funny. On the notes of flags falling and me not giving a damn about IG and me and Charge doing a TikTok house at Daniel's insistence. This seems like a good way to close. Gentlemen, Daniel, Chun, Kimchi Express, Matt, we're ready. Guys, thanks for coming by on ZoomTheTBT.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed listening to ZoomTheTBT with Charge and Hainer. Subscribe to YouTube, follow on Twitter, and give us your money.